got to go. We have got to get this country back on the beam. We cannot allow this to continue to unravel. Lester, I mean, really, we're like a third world country right now, right? I mean, this is absolutely off the charts evil. It can't exist. We can't allow it to exist, and we can't tolerate it. We can't say, well, you know, that's going to happen from time to time. No, it's not. It cannot be allowed. 1.5 million men and women in uniforms that give us the right to vote and do the things we do, for it to be this way now?
Obviously, a shocking and terrible evening as we hear the former president is okay, but as we've noted that one person was killed, 2 others have been badly injured in this. Congressman, thank you for taking a few minutes. We're glad you and the kids you're with are safe. I want to go to Garrett Hake now. He covers former President Trump. Garrett, Donald Trump has posted tonight on Truth Social. Talk through us what he wrote.
That's right, Lester. The former president using his preferred medium to inform the world of his status and the fact that he's okay. His message really in 3 parts. First, thanking law enforcement and the Secret Service for their swift action in Butler after the shooting. Second, offering his condolences for the person in the crowd, presumably a Trump supporter, who was killed and the other person seriously injured, about whom we don't have any additional update now. And then describing his experience with what he says was being shot through the skin of his right ear, saying that he knew immediately that it was a bullet. He felt the bullet ripping through skin. He says much bleeding took place, and he realized what had happened. He concludes, God bless America. We don't know yet, Lester, if this will be the only communication we get from the former president tonight. He is, of course, scheduled to go to Milwaukee and be seen there on Monday for the start of the Republican National Convention. But obviously, not just a personal crisis for him, a sort of crisis for the country with this moment of apparent political violence, with an apparent assassination attempt, but also a crisis for his campaign that will now have to figure out what exact steps they'll need to take, both to make sure he remains safe today, tomorrow, and going forward, particularly with the convention where tens of thousands of people are expected to attend over the 4-day event. And what, if anything, they want to make of this moment politically. The former president said in his Truth Social post that nothing is known yet about the shooter. He makes no comment about that. His supporters, though, are using images like the ones we're seeing on the screen, including both of his sons, pinning those images to their X accounts, the website formerly known as Twitter, pointing out the idea that their father, the Republican nominee in waiting, if you will, is a fighter, and kind of seizing on this moment to elevate him politically. And so we have the physical update here from the former president. Again, he claims that he was shot through the upper part of his right ear. By all accounts, will be just fine. The political reverberations, of course, entirely unpredictable at this moment, but already going on behind the scenes. The Trump campaign, as we've reported earlier in the evening, putting their staffers on lockdown, telling people not to talk to the press, not to talk at all, while they figure out the steps at a more senior level they want to take going forward. And Lester, I'll just add, as I mentioned earlier in our broadcast tonight, that concerns about the former president's safety on the campaign trail have always been on the front burner at the senior level of the Trump campaign. The mega rallies that he likes to hold with tens of thousands of people in open areas. Concerns about how to continue to conduct those safely in a kind of a hot political environment, an environment where he just might not be safe. There was much talk about those events, and even the smaller events where he likes to drop by at fast food restaurants or firehouses, the kind of unscheduled stops that presidential candidates like to make. At every single one of these stops that are discussed, there are serious high-level discussions about whether they can be conducted safely. It will be borne out in the reporting to come what kind of conversations were had about this rally, and how, if at all, Donald Trump will change his posture towards these rallies that have become such a hallmark of his over his political career.
I was going to ask you about that, because this is a part of his certainly his political identity. He loves these type of moments in these rallies, so it would be hard to imagine his campaign without that, but I guess that is one of the many go ahead.
We did see, Lester, earlier this year, his campaign made a tactical decision in Iowa and New Hampshire when they realized that these giant rallies were pulling in so many people from states that weren't relevant. You know, if you held an event in Iowa for 10,000 people and 6,000 of them drove over from Illinois, it wasn't helping you in the caucus. So they made tactical decisions along the way to shrink events for that purpose. Obviously, in a general election, when you're talking about 70, 80 million voters across the country, but mostly focused on battleground states, it doesn't it doesn't seem outside of reason that they might find smaller events that look just as good on television might be safer, easier, certainly cheaper going forward. But again, I think these are all conversations that are going to be had down the line with a president, as you note, who very much likes to have these events, to talk about the crowd size, and to make that part of the sort of his idea of projecting strength as a candidate.
All right, Garrett Haake, thanks. We'll ask you to stand by as I bring in our senior Washington correspondent, Hallie Jackson. Hallie, we have been hearing from members of the Trump family tonight. In fact, Garrett mentioned some of them. Obviously, I guess they are the lone conduits. The campaign itself is being very quiet right now.
Yeah, they are, and they have taken on the position now of sort of communicating to the American people, as their father has now done in that Truth Social, that online post that Garrett just referenced, how their dad is doing. Donald Trump Jr. is saying that his father is in good spirits, that he has spoken with him. I have heard from somebody else who has spoken with the former president, very close with him, who describes him as very tough. And so we know that the former president was shot in the ear based on, of course, that post. His daughter Ivanka Trump also releasing a post saying that she loves her father, condemning political violence, as so many on either side of the aisle have done tonight now over the course of the last 3 hours or so. I was struck listening to your conversation there with Congressman Kelly Lester, who knows Butler very well. That's his hometown. He was raised there. The place where this rally was held, this is, to use a cliche, Lester, it was Trump country. I mean, this is a place that skews heavily Republican, where Republicans outnumber Democrats 2-1, where Donald Trump handily won back in 2020 by something like 2/3 of the vote there. This is a place where he would, of course, be focusing on coming up in this upcoming election. It was a notable location for his rally just 2 days now before the convention was supposed to begin, because it was the last rally before Milwaukee. There was some question 4 hours ago as to whether or not the former president might actually roll out his running mate, his vice presidential pick there. That had been where so much of the focus and the conversation politically was for Donald Trump and for his campaign in the moments, of course, before this horrific shooting happened, this horrific attack. Now, obviously, the conversation has changed, and I can tell you, based on some of the reporting from our team here at NBC News, a source familiar with planning for the convention says this changes everything. That is reflected by some of the conversations that I've had as well. Sort of people are going, how could this go on as normal? So I think there is a real question mark as to the days ahead. I think probably the most urgent one, and the question that we are working on too, is just physically, where does Mr. Trump go from here? Will we hear, for example, from any of the doctors who treated him? Will we perhaps see him publicly, maybe tonight, maybe early tomorrow morning?